You feel it the second you stop reaching. Not with fireworks, not with a dramatic goodbye, but with a quiet click inside you. Like a door finally closing on a room you were never meant to beg your way into. For so long you tried to be seen by someone who made a habit of looking through you. You softened your words, timed your messages, questioned your worth, and called it patience. But the moment you withdraw that offering, everything in the atmosphere shifts. At first it looks like nothing. No contact, no updates, no proof. Just you, breathing without that constant hunger for a reply. Most people think ignoring the one who ignored you is a game. They expect you to chase, explain, or perform one last time for a scrap of attention. But you don't. You choose stillness. You choose dignity. And that decision does something they never prepared for. It removes the fuel. Here's what you notice later, the detail that makes the whole story make sense. They weren't calm because they didn't care. They were calm because they assumed you would always return to the same position. Always reach first. Always make their silence feel powerful. When you stop feeding it, their control stops working, and the mask starts to slip. Because this wasn't about you being forgettable. It was about them needing you to keep reaching. Now you see what that silence awakens in them. Now that you see the mask slip, you can replay the pattern with new eyes. The delays weren't random. Replies came when it suited them, and they often arrived thin, like your time was optional. One day they were warm and interested. The next they were distant, suddenly too busy to acknowledge you. In public they could act indifferent, but in private they knew how to pull you back with a breadcrumb, a late-night message, a hint that you still mattered. That push and pull trained you. It kept your mind scanning, your heart negotiating, your body waiting for the next shift. You told yourself you were being patient and mature, yet you were shrinking your needs so you wouldn't ruin it. You began measuring your worth by response times, effort, and how long you could last without breaking first. Confusion became normal, and you started blaming yourself for needing clarity. Even your peace started to depend on whether they noticed you today. Most people respond by chasing, explaining, proving. They send the careful paragraph, offer one more chance, try to become irresistible so the ignoring stops. And for a moment it works because the loop is simple. They withdraw, you reach. They feel powerful, and you feel relieved. But relief isn't love. It's your nervous system getting a brief break from suspense. But something in you finally got quiet enough to notice what this was costing your nervous system. Your nervous system has been telling the truth long before your pride could admit it. The tightness in your chest when you saw their name. The drop in your stomach when hours passed and you pretended it didn't matter. The restless scrolling, rereading the last message. Doing quiet math to decide whether it was too soon to speak again. You replayed conversations like evidence, searching for the moment you must have said the wrong thing. And then there was the bargaining. You offered your self-respect in tiny negotiations. If I stay calm, if I don't ask for clarity, if I act like I'm fine, they'll come back. You made yourself smaller to keep the connection alive, even while your body stayed on alert, like your skin was listening. But something changes when awareness arrives. Not panic, not revenge, just a clean, steady recognition. You notice the pattern the way you notice weather, predictable, repetitive, not personal. You realize the anxiety isn't romance, it's conditioning. The peace you feel in their absence isn't loneliness. It's your body finally unclenching. That's the awakening beat people don't talk about. It's quiet. It's the moment you stop debating what they meant and start honoring what you feel. You don't need a confession to validate your experience. You don't need them to admit it for it to be real. And once you saw it, you did the one thing they never planned for. You didn't announce it. You didn't threaten it. You simply removed access. You don't make a scene. You don't write the paragraph to be screenshot and misunderstood. You don't ask for an explanation that will arrive wrapped in excuses. You simply stop initiating. The thread goes quiet because you stop pulling it. The door stays closed because you stop knocking. At first it feels unfamiliar. Like you're breaking a rule you never agreed to but somehow always followed. Your fingers reach for the phone and then pause. Your mind starts to draft a message, and then you let it dissolve. You let the silence stand without filling it with proof of your loyalty. And in that space you feel something return to you. Your energy. You stop seeking crumbs dressed up as connection. You stop translating mixed signals into hope. You stop doing emotional labor for someone who benefits from your uncertainty. There is no dramatic exit, no announcement, no bait for a reaction. Just the absence of pursuit, the quiet reclaiming of your dignity. Most people try to win their attention. You chose to win your peace. You don't ignore them to punish them. You ignore them because you finally understand that access to you is earned, not assumed. And the reversal is immediate. The dynamic flips. The distance they used as a weapon becomes a mirror they can't look away from. They feel what you used to feel, but louder, because they aren't used to sitting with it. And that's when their behavior stopped being controlled and started being loud. So they start small, because that's what someone does when they want control back without admitting they lost it. A story view that appears the second you post. A like that could be an accident, but happens twice. A vague message that says nothing and demands everything. Hey, you good? Just checking in. Suddenly they're friendly, casual, almost sweet, as if nothing ever happened. As if your silence is the only strange thing in the room. It isn't about connection. It's a temperature check. They want to see if you'll rush to smooth the air, if you'll hand them reassurance, if you'll explain yourself, if you'll prove you're still available to be pulled and pushed. Because if you respond quickly, they learn you're still on the hook. If you respond emotionally, they learn they can still steer you. If you respond with a long paragraph, they learn you'll still do the work for both of you. But you don't give them your nervous system. You keep your energy sealed. If you respond at all, it's simple, calm, and clean. No over-explaining, no chasing. No hidden question marks dressed as kindness. Ignoring isn't punishment, it's protection. It's you refusing to donate your peace to someone who treats your attention like a lever. And when they can't pull that lever with a light tap, they start pushing harder, because silence feels like losing. They'd start drama to avoid facing your absence. When the soft pings don't pull you back, they reach for pressure. They post something that feels pointed but deniable. A quote about loyalty, or knowing your worth, timed to make you wonder if it's about you. They mention a third party in conversation like it's casual, just enough to spark a sting. They suddenly appear busier, louder, surrounded by people, trying to look untouched by what your silence is doing to them. This is triangulation in its simplest form. Create a competitor, create a story, then wait for you to audition for your place. Sometimes it's gossip, sometimes it's a subtle rumor, Sometimes it's a mutual friend delivering updates you never asked for. The goal isn't truth. The goal is reaction. Because the moment you react, they get to frame you. If you get angry, you're unstable. If you ask questions, you're jealous. If you defend yourself, you're obsessed. Any emotion becomes proof that they still matter. They expect a speech. You give them calm. You let the posts pass. You let the rumors die from lack of oxygen. You stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You don't compete for access to someone who treated you like an option. And something quietly brutal happens for them in that moment. The narrative they were building can't hold without your participation, without your reaction to feed on. Their mask starts slipping in public for everyone. And then it happens. The calm facade breaks. The messages come too fast, too emotional, too inconsistent. One moment it's sweetness, the next it's anger. They apologize dramatically, then accuse you of being cold. They ask where you've been, as if you disappeared from a place you never belonged. They accidentally run into you, show up where they know you'll be, or send a meme meant to reset the whole dynamic back to casual. This is what losing the lever looks like. They don't know how to sit with uncertainty, so they manufacture noise. They poke, then plead, then punish, all in the same breath, because they need you to react. They need proof that they can still move you, still occupy space in your mind, still pull your attention on command. Here's the detail you notice later, the one that makes it all click. They didn't truly feel your absence when you were always available to chase, to explain, to return after being dismissed. Your effort was the cushion that protected them from consequence. The moment you stopped proving your worth, reality hit them. It wasn't that they suddenly discovered your value. It's that they suddenly lost access to it, so their mind scrambles to restore the old order. But you stay steady. You don't argue with bait, because peace is the boundary they can't cross. Now you start seeing what was actually happening all along. Now you can name it without hatred. What you stepped out of is a reward loop. When they ignored you and you rushed in to restore closeness, the attention you gave became the prize. It taught them quietly that withdrawal works. It trained you quietly to chase relief. The moment you stopped responding the old way, the loop lost its payoff, and their nervous system registered it as a loss of control. Your calm is also a mirror. In your silence, they can't hide behind the story that you're desperate, or needy, or easily managed. They're forced to face the part of themselves that depended on being chased, and because you're not fighting, they have nothing to blame. No drama to point at, no outburst to use as evidence. Just your steadiness, reflecting their instability back at them. And then there's the simplest truth. Your absence makes them sit with themselves. When you were available, they could outsource their regulation to your reassurance. They could dip in, get the validation, and disappear. Now the emptiness they tried to hand to you stays with them. If you think in energy, this is where it becomes obvious. When you stop leaking your attention into a one-sided connection, your field seals. You return to your center. You become harder to hook because you are no longer negotiating with discomfort. And this is where people make a mistake, confusing peace with weakness. You didn't get weaker, you got clearer. That clarity is what unsettles them. With that clarity, your posture changes. You stop narrating your worth to someone committed to misunderstanding it. You become steady, not because it doesn't hurt, but because you refuse to hand your nervous system to a power game. You are unavailable for crumbs and unavailable for confusion. This is emotional sovereignty, a simple decision that you will not abandon yourself to be chosen. You won't audition for access to your own life. You won't barter your dignity for a moment of warmth that disappears the second you relax. They needed you reactive to define you. They needed the paragraphs, the tears, the chase, so they could label you and control the story. But you become unlabelable. When you stop performing, you stop being predictable. And when you stop being predictable, you stop being controllable. You don't have to announce your boundary for it to exist. You embody it in what you no longer tolerate, and in how calmly you exit what once hooked you. That calm is your authority, but ignoring them is only step one. The real win is what you do with the space you reclaimed, starting right now. You protect your freedom in the small moments, not the dramatic ones. It starts when your hand reaches for the phone to check if they watched, liked, posted, hinted, or hovered, and you gently set it down. You stop hunting for signs because signs can be staged. You stop rereading the past for clues because the pattern already told you the truth. You also stop writing closure paragraphs, not because you lack words, but because you respect them. You refuse to pour clarity into someone who used confusion as a tool. If a message comes through, you don't answer from adrenaline. You wait until your body is calm. Then you choose the simplest sentence that honors you. Brief, neutral, self-respecting. You respond only to clarity, consistency, and respect, because anything less is a request to return to the loop. Then you build a life that supports the boundary. You spend more time in spaces where your chest softens and your breathing steadies. You choose people who don't make you prove you belong. You sleep, hydrate, move your body, and let your mind stop sprinting. It isn't performance, it's retraining. It's teaching your system that love doesn't arrive as suspense. You stop inviting conversations that leave you dizzy. You choose straightforwardness, connection that doesn't require you to disappear to be valued again. When the old urge to explain rises, you remember that silence can be a complete sentence. Consistency will speak for you. Time will reveal what words never could. And if they come back louder, you hold the same truth. You are not playing hard to get. You are protecting what is sacred. Your attention is sacred, your peace sacred, your love is sacred. Access is earned through steadiness, not chaos. Something subtle starts happening around you once you stop chasing. People feel it before they can explain it. Friends who watched you overextend begin speaking to you with a quieter respect. Coworkers who once stayed neutral start treating you like someone who knows where they stand. Even mutuals who used to pass messages slow down, because you're no longer available for triangles. They can't stir you the way before. You don't announce anything. You're simply consistent. You show up steady in your tone, clear in your boundaries, and unhooked from the need to be understood by the one person who kept you spinning. That steadiness becomes a contrast so sharp it rearranges the whole perception of the situation. Because while you get calmer, they get louder. While you stop explaining, they start performing. The more they escalate to force a reaction, the more unstable they look, and people notice, not because you recruited an audience, but because behavior speaks. Silence gives everyone space to see what's real. Your refusal to participate becomes the clean background that makes their chaos obvious. This is what vindication actually looks like. No speeches, no receipts, no begging for fairness. Just time, consistency, and you staying aligned long enough for the truth to surface on its own. And the moment it does, you realize you were never powerless. So now we arrive at the only question that matters. What if they come back louder than ever? Your life expands the moment you stop negotiating for attention. Not because you became colder, but because you stopped abandoning yourself to be chosen. That is the real turning point. You no longer chase what withholds, and you no longer mistake suspense for love. The peace you built is your proof that you're healing. You don't need their permission to feel whole again today either. If they return, you'll know the difference immediately. Genuine return feels simple. It comes with clarity, consistency, and respect. Not riddles, not tests, not pressure. Control-seeking return feels urgent and confusing. It tries to rush you back into the old loop, to make you explain, to make you soothe, to make you doubt your boundary. You don't have to argue with either version. You only have to stay aligned with what your body already knows. And here is the promise. You are safe now because you don't disappear inside other people anymore. You can feel tenderness without surrendering your power. You can remember them without reopening the door. You can forgive without granting access. When you choose yourself, you stop being a target for games. So take what resonates and leave the rest. If this message met you at the right time, comment, "I choose my peace." And if you want the next chapter, stay close. The next phase is where the door either opens with respect or closes permanently with peace. Either way, you win, because your dignity is no longer up for negotiation.